Yo, Shirley here. Welcome back. Today we're on the 9.1 PTR taking a look at the new Warrior Legendaries as well as a few other little things that are coming to the new patch. We're going to go ahead and jump right into the meat of this video, not wasting any time, and talking about these new Legendaries. And you might be surprised to see that I am a Fury Warrior at the moment, because that is what's kind of broken right now. It's not actually arms, although for arms, we're going to talk about that in a little bit. We're not going over the other two right away. The first thing we're going to talk about is this right here. Sinful Surge is the new legendary coming for the Venthyr Covenant for Warriors, and it does different things depending on which spec you're in. So for Fury, Condemn extends the duration of Recklessness by 3 seconds, whereas for Arms, it will extend the duration of Colossus Smash by 1.5 seconds. And what makes it broken on Fury is because with the whenever you're in Condemn phases, Execute phases, you get 100% uptime on your Recklessness, and we can do this without even taking Anger Management. See right here, I'm spec'd into Reckless Abandon, and I can hit this Starter Dummy for 1.5 minutes here, and we're gonna have Wreck up for the entire time. There is one really interesting interaction. I'm gonna go ahead and start this so we can just get it going, so you can see the demonstration of why this is kind of an issue here. But on to the next thing. The Reckless Abandon talent, for whatever reason, doesn't interact the way that you might expect it would throughout the entire duration of this. It seems to be just buffing Bloodthirst and Raging Blow during the initial phase of the Recklessness duration, not throughout the entire, minute duration that you can get with it. I am using the one conduit that extends the duration of Wreck, although with, better optimized gear for this, you could probably get away without doing it. Or it could actually open up some build opportunities to use something, like Anger Management, maybe, swapping out your conduits for something different, if you like that playstyle of Anger Management. That being said, though, this is broken and overpowered, but it's only this way for single target currently. I imagine in Mythic Plus, or any kind of mass AoE situation, you're still going to want to use Signet of Tormented Kings, for the Blade Storm procs and everything, so, it's not game-breaking across the board, I guess, but it's pretty bad. As you can see, my Recklessness buff here, still up as we're coming back down to the cooldown on Wreck coming up here. And there it is. There's 100% uptime on Wreck. I can just pop it and keep going, and as you can see, Crushing Blow and Bloodbath, they will phase back out again after 10 seconds or so. So, yeah, this is a big issue. Obviously, the first iteration of the PTR is, it's not finished yet. I imagine they're going to balance this. Maybe the duration just needs to be a little bit less, 2 seconds maybe. Like Arms' version being 1.5 seconds, because if we go over to Arms spec and look at this same legendary and situation, during the execute phase, we can't, we can't get 100% uptime on Colossus Smash without the proper buffs and the right things kind of lining up here. For one, you're going to need Anger Management, because Ravager not proccing Recklessness, it doesn't generate enough rage by itself without the other legendary, the Signet of Tormented Kings. So I went ahead and was testing out some Anger Management with it and using a little bit of an old school build with In for the Kill, because Avatar it's not giving you enough rage over the duration, and In for the Kill is supplementing a little bit extra haste for the rage generation. And it works, but it's not, it's okay on pull. So we can get, I'm already getting rage starved, but that's the biggest issue with it. And we can get it going for, 30 to 40 seconds on a good pull, depending on crits and everything. But there is one glaring issue with it, and that's the fact that Condemn doesn't refresh Deep Wounds. So you run into the situation here where I have to refresh Deep Wounds, and that's when the CS buff falls off. But we did get it almost back up to that exact time frame that we need to get almost 100% uptime on it as Arms, at least within for the kill. So it's not terrible, but once again, this is that situation that it's only going to be, maybe competitive in a pure single target, point. As it stands now, Signet is just better, even in single target, because of the rage issues. But moving on to that, there is one situation maybe you could find on a boss fight that you could get away with using this for arms, and that's taking Deadly Calm and anger management with it. And now, it's not going to line up really great, but if you're using your Deadly Calm windows within the Warbreaker or the Colossus Smash window, then we can get pretty good uptime. So I'm going to go ahead and just go through it like a normal setup here. Actually, Rage Cap there popped a little early off that charge, but it's okay. And we're just spamming down Condemns, filling out with Overpowers like normal. We do have to refresh Deep Wounds with MS, which still is very unfortunate. But with Deadly Calm, at least on the pull. Now imagine this situation with Bloodlust or anything like that. We can get basically 100% uptime the first go around, override itself, and keep going, which is great. But as soon as we don't have Deadly Calm for 30 seconds here, we're going to run into the same issue that we do with In for the Kill. And In for the Kill is a little bit more consistent, it seems. This one kind of falls off a lot harder. As you can see, we can still have like 15 seconds left on the cooldown versus 10 to 5 with In for the Kill. But during those phases with Deadly Calm, I could see the burst potential actually lining up fairly well. Anyway, that's all I want to cover on the new Condemn Legendary. Talking now briefly about the other two that are in the game. Yeah, there's only two. We're still waiting on the PTR for the Kyrian Legendary to come in. It's not in yet, so we can't even talk about it. But we have Glory here and Nature's Fury. So Glory makes Conqueror's Banner affect one additional ally, and every 20 rage you spend, while it's active, increases the duration of your banner by half a second. This duration increase only impacts the warrior itself, not the people it's buffing, which is unfortunate, but it would probably be a little bit too good in that situation, because now that it affects an additional target, it's already extremely good if you can get this with, fire mages and moonkins and stuff. But it doesn't really benefit the warrior itself that much, so if you really like that support role, I suppose it's pretty good. And the Nature's Fury is a buff for Ancient Aftershock. Increases its duration by 3 seconds, and enemies hit take a dot over 6 seconds, stacking 6 times. This yeah, it does a lot of burst damage on paper in an AoE situation. The problem is the practicality of it. The 3-second duration increase, it's already hard enough to get all the targets within the Shockwave Cone to stay put, for the whole duration, so this is just adding time onto it. The dot itself isn't required, which is nice, but to stack the dot, it has to be applied through the ground effect texture, if that makes sense. So you have to get the perfect situation where everything just stands in this for the full duration to get the really, the most value out of it. So it's got some application and like really big Mythic Plus and stuff, but it doesn't really change much for rating, I don't think. Venthyr is still going to be the way to go, especially with, Signet being that way. If we could get, later on down the line, we could stack like 2 legendaries and, use Signet with this thing, that would be pretty damn good. But anyway, moving on to the next thing in 9.1, we're getting a new soulbind talents. And briefly looking at the Venthyr one, it's just a couple of extra rows with a small passive effect, 2 new conduit sockets. We're getting a potency one, and then, one of the other ones if you're choosing, and it's like this for most of the other ones, I believe. Yeah, they all have a single potency, so we're getting 3 potencies, which is nice. And then the final capstone, if you're using Venthyr, at least for the warrior, I don't see you changing from Nausea now, because the new one is Fatal Flaw. When the haste effect of Euphoria ends, we get 10 more seconds of a passive buff of either 20% crit or versatility, whichever one you had a higher stat of. So this is really good. It's just an extra 10-second, passive buff. Makes the Euphoria window even better. Maybe you'll want to plan around this a little bit if you can. If it's like a pure single target and you notice your Euphoria stacks are coming up soon and you got cooldowns waiting, I could see waiting for this. Generally, though, it doesn't change much. It's still passive, so, it's not that big of a deal when it comes to gameplay, but it is pretty good. And last thing I wanted to touch on in today's video is PvP. briefly, they're doing two things. There are some new PvP talents coming to the game, and currently as it is, Warrior doesn't have any, but there are a couple of examples. I know Mage is getting a few things. They're getting a Frost Wall that they can cast, which creates an actual terrain object wall that creates line of sight. That'll be really interesting, and there's a lot of neat new things that are coming like that. I really hope that Warrior sees some love here. I remember back on the beta, there was supposed to be a new PvP talent called, I can't remember what it's called, Massacre or something. Not Massacre. But basically it was an AoE execute that had a cast time that executed everything around you, and it had like a 10-second cooldown or something. If we get something like that back, that would be pretty cool. But other than that, the PvP gear itself, the item levels are going to be changing next patch if you weren't aware. As it is now, Duelist gear is the same as Mythic Raid gear, and then the weapons at Elites are the same as like Mythic Denathrius weapons at 233. This is changing to, if we put it in backwards terms here, the new Duelist gear would be 220, which is, you know, about the same as Heroic, or at least Denathrius Heroic, I think, off the top of my head, yeah. Which is, you know, still better than normal Heroic gear, but you won't be as, you know, supplemented, I guess, when it comes to Mythic raiding, just getting a ton of PvP gear like I did at the beginning of the season. But in PvP, it will scale up an additional 13 item levels in instance PvP. I don't remember if they specified if World PvP was affected by that. I think it is. It's like it was back in Warlords of Draenor. It's good in a way that it makes the best gear for PvP come from PvP, but ever since they put in the trinket set bonus, I don't see a huge issue with people using like raid trinkets in Arena. And, you know, most of the stats are normalized. There's not any like really wacky pieces of gear right now. So, you know, using raid gear and PvP gear, it's about the same, just PvP gear has versatility on it. So I guess it's good for PvPers that just want to PvP for the best of the best. If you're raiding and PvPing like I do, then, you know, it's a little bit of a downer that I can't supplement like the exact same item level gear. But it's not that big of a deal at the end of the day. It just means that we're going to have to, you know, roll for more gear in the raid itself. Speaking of which, this isn't confirmed yet, as far as I know, but there is some data mining that we might be getting bonus rolls back for the actual raid since, you know, loot was pretty scarce this last tier. But anyway, that's all I wanted to cover today. I think I've talked your ear off long enough. If you got this far, thank you for watching. Please consider subscribing if you enjoy the content, and I will see you next time. Peace.